Well, with 2 years left on Trump's presidency, it's never too early to start looking at the field of Democrat candidates that may be running. So with that, let's get into this video and see what we're looking at.
New Emerson polling showing the 2028 presidential race may have a new frontrunner, former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Here to break down the latest is the Hill senior political correspondent Amy Parnes. Amy, thank you so much for joining us. Now, Buttigieg has hinted he might be running, but hasn't made a formal announcement yet. What are we seeing in the results of this poll?
I mean, we're seeing that he is in the lead, Judy, and I don't think that there is any big surprise there other than, he has sort of leapfrogged past Kamala Harris, who had the lead until now, and Gavin Newsom.
Well, after Kamala Harris's disappointing performance last election cycle, I can't see how they're legitimately going to put her up again, even though there have been some rumors at that. Now, Pete Buttigieg, as you'll remember, didn't run last cycle because he was, I believe, Transportation Secretary while Biden was in office. So if you'll remember, before that, when he actually ran for president, he was a mayor of a town called South Bend, I believe, in Oregon, and from there stepped up to run for president. He did not win the primary and then was included in Biden's cabinet as Secretary of Transportation. Great experience for him, and very interesting that he's considering a run. Let's continue to watch more of this.
The governor of California. So that is a little bit surprising, but ever since leaving the administration, the Biden administration, he was transportation secretary, obviously. Buttigieg has been making the rounds. He's been out there. He's been a frequent communicator on cable news. And so, and is sort of building towards something. He told Al Sharpton recently, a couple months ago at the National Action Network conference, that he kind of alluded to the fact that he might be running. And so a lot of people are kind of excited about that. And I think you're seeing that reflected.
I think he could do very well if the Democrat side is not willing to look at facts and truth yet. They may want another candidate who just simply represents anyone other than a straight white male. And as we know, Buttigieg is part of the LGBT community. He is a Democrat, and a lot of these extreme leftists won't have to change any of their viewpoints and can just vote for somebody a little bit more quote unquote inclusive, even though we're seeing a sweep across the globe currently in voters, especially women, who want to vote for policies like inclusion and open borders that are literally not the best, do not have the best outcome for their safety, which is a contradiction that a lot of people haven't seen in a long time in voting populations. And it's quite scary, to be honest. Do I think the Democrat side has a chance against the Republican side? Potentially. I think we've got some issues to clear up on the Republican side. The Epstein files, for one, we've got to do a little bit more on that. Be nice if gas prices could go down and we could see an end to war and see a little bit more peace. But then again, we don't control world politics either. So time will tell. Let's take a little further look into this video.
In this poll,
we're of course still 2 years away from the 2028 election, so there's plenty of time for things to change even more. But this is already a departure from the perceived frontrunners we saw earlier this year: Gavin Newsom, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. What do you make of that?
I think it's interesting. I think that he is seen sort of as a Midwestern guy, more of a normal guy. I think that Kamala
I don't know what it is about Gavin Newsom. He just scares me. I think he is a career politician who will do whatever it takes to move forward. And ultimately, that scares me. I think he'll flip-flop. He'll hide things. He'll say whatever he needs to say, all for power. I don't know that much about Newsom. I want to get a little bit more educated before I speak any further on him. But he just comes off real scummy. No disrespect to Newsom. I know that doesn't make much sense, but let's keep watching.
Kamala Harris obviously brings her own baggage. A lot of people feel like she shouldn't run again because she had her chance in 2024, even though she came quite close. And there are other people who think she should run again.
Which is scary. It's scary that she came quite close, to be honest.
Gavin Newsom has this sort of problem of being perceived as too slick and maybe too progressive. And so I think that in some ways he's going to have to prove that those are wrong characteristics, and I think he'll sort of aim to do that. Although it'll be interesting to see how he navigates through a primary, because
I don't think he's got a chance in hell.
Are kind of miffed at him for some of his policies, even though he has this perceived progressive aura about him. And so they all have their pros and cons, but I think the Buttigieg, polling is reflective of the fact that he has been out there.
Buttigieg is a smart candidate, I think. Like I said, he carries the LGBTQ community with him, which all these extreme leftists, who were trying to stop ICE and rally for continued open borders, even though people were being unalived by some of these criminal immigrants. I think he represents I think he's a very intelligent man, and like I said, he'll be a poster boy for these extreme leftists to vote for without even having to use much thought. And he doesn't have any scandal or corruption staining his name right now. So he's kind of like a Democrat Vivek Ramaswamy. Interesting. I think he could be pretty hard to beat. Like I said, he kind of brings all of the qualities that Kamala Harris has, but a more articulate speaker, I think more decisive, and again, part of the LGBTQ community.
He has a military background.
Exactly,
he has worked
that too.
in administration. He checks the boxes in a lot of ways, and I think that's appealing to a lot of folks out there.
We've seen a handful of people say they won't be running. The latest is Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer today ruling out a presidential bid. When should we start seeing some announcements start rolling in?
I think not really until next year, Judy. I think, for Governor Newsom in particular, he's wrapping up his term as California governor. And I think he'll probably take a bit of a break and then come back out and maybe announce. I think other people, 2027 is really, after the midterms, is when you're going to start seeing official kickoffs. But, as I've said, and as you and I have talked about, this campaign is already going. A lot of people are out there running. They are attending conferences. They are kind of planting their flags, their stakes in the ground. And so it's kind of the unofficial beginning, and I think more to come, obviously.
Are there any other potential Democratic candidates that you're keeping an eye on?
AOC?
AOC in particular.
There we go.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Which I have no idea how we could elect AOC. Again, left extremists could vote for her. She is just... It seems like every week or every other week in the news for debating something without any factual knowledge, where she's proven wrong subsequently. And there's so many memes about her just having no clue what she's talking about. Look, she's a good-looking, smart woman from the Bronx, I believe. And so again, in 2026, where the left isn't interested in facts, they're simply interested in aesthetics, and those aesthetics being aligned with anything other than a straight white male, because this is the age of radical feminism. And when I say radical feminism, feminism was to make everyone equal. Radical feminism is we don't want to hear anything that straight white men say. We've had it. So even if you're right, you're wrong, and everybody else is better than you, even if they're not. Let's keep watching.
Cortez, obviously, I think that she is one to watch. She is obviously considering a run for the presidency. She's also considering a run for New York Senate. She hasn't made up her mind yet. She would do very well in a primary. She obviously has that progressive mantle. A lot of people are fans of hers. I think.
See, and we don't have Donald Trump running, and Donald Trump is fairly quick-witted and can challenge a lot of these candidates, was able to knock out a lot of people like Jeb Bush and other candidates just by simply putting them on the spot with hard-hitting questions that they weren't able to answer. If we're going to beat the Democrats, we're going to have to find someone very charismatic who knows exactly what they're talking about. And I'd say it's either going to be J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio. I think Rubio may be the stronger choice just because he's already been experienced with one presidential cycle. So he knows how to handle the pressure. I think he's older than Vance. I think he's a little bit more experienced and seasoned. So a lot of people may want to get behind Vance, but I feel like that could be a mistake because the Democrat Party may be quite formidable this time without running Kamala or a Joe Biden. They may have some real fresh talent, like I said with Buttigieg. So if they put up Vance, he may be too closely tied to Trump, whereas Rubio could really differentiate himself still in his presidency, if he were to get elected, still move forward a lot of Trump's initiatives without backpedaling and possibly be able to edge out strong Democrat talent. So, very interesting. I'd love to see a Rubio ticket. And I think a Rubio Buttigieg face-off would be crazy. Because again, both of them have run before. I think Rubio beats AOC easily.
In some ways, she has.
Of course, in this country, since we've never had a woman president, it's still that moment that if we could potentially have a woman president, all the ladies are going to go apeshit. And I don't say that again to be disrespectful. I just think that until we get a woman president, at the sign of any woman running that has half a chance, people are just, and by people I mean a lot of ladies and a lot of virtue signaling men, are just going to go apeshit, even if the more qualified candidate with better and more sound policies is running in the on the Republican side.
There's more fans for her than Bernie Sanders does, and I think she's a very interesting person to watch, and a lot of people around Capitol Hill are keeping a close eye on her to see exactly what she does.
The thing that I just want to mention that causes me to question Rubio a little bit is, since he's worked so hand in hand with Trump in this administration, obviously as the Secretary of State, I think he is already completely down with Israel. And I'd love to see a candidate that wasn't just completely on board with Israel and allowed Israel to make their own decisions and our decisions to be free from doing whatever Israel wanted us to do, which, again, I'd like to inform myself a little bit more, but it's a little disconcerting to see how much we do for Israel, considering Netanyahu's wanted on war crimes, and there's all kinds of criticisms now with Israel's war policies, to say the least.
We know both Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance have been tossed around as Republican contenders. Are there any other names coming up in conversation on the Republican side of things?
No, right now, Judy, it's really just this this sort of palace intrigue around J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, and they're friends, but a lot of people are kind of pitting them against each other. There are these theories that Rubio will end up being the nominee, that there is a lot of excitement around him right now. And a lot of people say there isn't that for J.D. Vance. And, Rubio has...
That makes more sense to me. And Rubio could easily get the Latino vote, I think, especially since he's from Cuba. So I think he's definitely the smarter choice by far.
Has knocked down those rumors. Has said that they're friends. J.D. Vance has said the same thing. But that is going to be something that a lot of people are going to watch. I don't know if there will be much room for anyone else, but maybe a Ted Cruz, maybe a Ron DeSantis.
Well, guys, pretty interesting to think about who could potentially run in 2028. With Trump having such a polarizing presidency, the pendulum could swing back and we could get a Democrat, which is very interesting to think about, to say the least, because oftentimes they like to go in the complete opposite direction that the previous Republican administration went, kind of. So there you have it. Let me know what you guys think inside the comments, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.